Good morning, Metaverse. I'm Thor at the Red Hand, and this is going to be a reading of a sustainable government framework for the Star Atlas DAO. Thank you for your patience. It's been over a month since my last video as I've moved my entire family out to our new home on the farm. My wife, 2 kids, 4 dogs, 7 goats, 1,000 chickens, and 1 cat. Now I have enough in place to make some videos and catch up with all the stuff that has gone on from 4 to 6. And I'll be making several videos and releasing them as I am able to. So let's turn off the lights and get ready to hear about the Star Atlas DAO. I will make a quick note that throughout the document, when I was trying to say automata, I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable and came out with automata. This is a change throughout the entire document. I will not be redoing it, but I do apologize. I like automata much better for the record. This will be the dark version, very intimate. Now sit back and relax as I read to you the 30-page document entitled A Sustainable Governance Framework for the Star Atlas DAO. And we begin. A Sustainable Governance Framework for the Star Atlas DAO. We have the introduction, disclaimer, executive summary. In part 1, we will talk about the importance of decentralization. Decentralization for gaming projects, DAOs today, challenges faced by DAOs, and in part 2, Star Atlas today and tomorrow, an effective governance framework. Star Atlas, the state of decentralization today, Star Atlas goals for tomorrow. Part 3, a sustainable governance framework. The Star Atlas DAO and its treasury, the Star Atlas Constitution, the Star Atlas Council, the proposals and voting process, Star Atlas Foundation, the roles of automata and other developers, the conclusion and our end notes. Introduction. Star Atlas is built on a community-first and community-driven ethos. Star Atlas assets are owned by players via non-fungible tokens. All critical game logic lives immutably and transparently on the blockchain. Ecosystem development is increasingly led by community developers. The fate of the Star Atlas metaverse is in the hands of a decentralized and diverse community experiencing its will via on-chain governance. Sustainable decentralization, however, is not easily obtained or maintained, particularly when the goal is to keep forward momentum towards delivering highly complex and immersive metaverse experiences. We believe that the long-term success of Star Atlas's decentralized governance system only are achievable with a high degree of transparency, carefully advised planning, and the collective efforts of the members of our community. This paper describes the path to the complete and sustainable decentralization of Star Atlas, why we need it, where we are today, and where we are headed tomorrow. We hope you, as part of the Star Atlas community, will help us iterate on the concept in this paper so we can shape our galactic government. Together, we will bring power to the people. Introduction. First, a disclaimer. This paper is an academic publication intended to inform and encourage public discussion by Star Atlas community members about governance issues and other decentralization of Star Atlas metaverse. The Star Atlas DAO, which in some cases acts through the Star Atlas Foundation, has requested or commissioned this paper for publication. This paper includes work undertaken by researchers, employees, consultants, or service providers of ATMTA Inc. for the benefit of Star Atlas DAO. ATMTA Inc. has taken responsible measures to ensure the quality and accuracy of the information available in this paper. However, ATMTA Inc. makes no warranty express or implied, nor assumes any legal liability or responsibility for accuracy, correctness, completeness, or use of any information that is available in this paper, nor represents that its use would not infringe on the rights of other parties. ATMTA Inc. may change, delete, or add to or otherwise amend information contained in this paper without notice. ATMTA Inc. is not responsible for the content of any other websites or pages linked to or referenced from this paper, except for statements of historical fact. The statements included herein are forward-looking statements that are based on the belief of ATMTA Inc.'s management, as well as assumptions made by and information currently available to ATMTA Inc. management. Although ATMTA Inc.'s management believes these forward-thinking statements are based on reasonable assumptions, there can be no assurance that forward-thinking statements will prove to be accurate, as actual results and future events could differ materially from those anticipated in such statements. ATMTA Inc. undertakes no obligation to update forward-looking statements if circumstances or management estimates or opinions should change, except as required under applicable law. These forward-looking statements are, by their nature, subject to significant risk and uncertainty. These statements are not guarantees of future performance, and undue reliance should not be placed on them. No financial, tax, or legal advice is given or implied. The executive summary. The growth of Web3 in recent years has been a Cambrian explosion of creativity, deep community engagement, innovative economic activity, and mind-altering new technologies, all premised on cryptographic primitives that enable a variety of trustless transactions. Web3 has brought about new forms of decentralized finance, which eliminate the need for gatekeepers and intermediaries in financial transactions, as well as the concept of true ownership and provenance of digital assets through non-fungible tokens, NFTs. These technologies and more are essential to the complex gaming and economic aspects of the Star Atlas metaverse. This paper focuses on Web3's innovation in community building and governance by token holders, decentralized autonomous organizations called DAOs. Although DAOs are nascent and fast evolving, we expect them to expand in scope, mature, and begin enabling digital democracy on an unprecedented scale. An active DAO is essential to empowering the builders and gamers of Star Atlas. Decentralization on all layers of the Star Atlas experience, gaming, economic, and governance, is a core Web3 ethos and has particular implications as well. It aligns creators' incentives with consumers, fostering innovation from all participants. It lowers access barriers and removes rent-extracting middlemen. It enables transparent, frictionless self-governance by a global community without needing to rely on untrustworthy intermediaries. And it underpins censorship resistance, meaning that Star Atlas, once its system has been fully built and deployed to the blockchain, could live practically forever. Without a sustainable structure, however, total decentralization would be ephemeral at best. The space is littered with abandoned projects that lost vision and momentum when attempting to decentralize too quickly. That failed to make any meaningful progress towards decentralization and lost sight of the community-first Web3 ethos that launched a DAO without sufficient safeguards or preparation and fell to exploits. The Star Atlas DAO must not only be fully decentralized, it also must be built to last. In this paper, we explore, in 3 parts, how Star Atlas can achieve a sustainable governance framework. The executive summary. Part 1, the importance of decentralization. Part 1 discusses the overarching goal of achieving decentralization. We explain why decentralization is mission critical and how DAO structures are uniquely well suited for an ambitious project like Star Atlas. We also observe what is and is not working for other DAOs. Part 2, Star Atlas Today and Tomorrow. Part 2 describes the vision for the structure of Star Atlas DAO, what it is today and what it will be tomorrow. While Star Atlas is by many measures already well on the path to full decentralization, we will explore the aspects of Star Atlas that could, with the community's collective effort, become more censorship resistant, decentralized, autonomous, and sustainable. Part 3, a sustainable governance framework. Part 3 sets forth our vision of a sustainable governance framework. This is a work in progress because it needs your input, as the community ultimately will decide how it will govern itself. We hope this paper demonstrates our commitment to transparency and decentralization, as we want to create a community that could last for eons. We think of the growth of Star Atlas as mirroring the birth and expansion of the universe itself, which began from a central point, a singularity, and rapidly grew from the Big Bang to the accelerating expansion of the present day. That is and will be our journey together. Part 1, the importance of decentralization. In Part 1, we cover the importance of decentralization as an overarching goal, particularly for gaming projects that represent some of the most complex development efforts in the Web3 space. We then discuss the state of DAOs today, what is working and what is not. In no way is this Part 1 meant to be comprehensive. Plenty has been written on these subjects already. We focus only on essential observations that inform how we think about the Star Atlas DAO. Decentralization for gaming projects. Web3 has fundamentally changed the relationship of creators and consumers by aligning their incentives in a radical departure from Web2's traditional, inefficient value models. Incentive alignment is especially beneficial for gaming projects. In Web 2, studios create a game and sell access to the game, but players only receive temporary permission to play, like getting a ticket to go visit an amusement park. Players might, for example, spend over $500,000 to max out their Diablo Immortal character, but at the end of the day, they have not bought or do not own any actual game asset. While they derive entertainment utility from playing the game, most of the value put into a Web 2 game flows to the studio. Not just monetary, but also the value of the time and effort that gamers provide in building a community, such as those social media. Moreover, access to Web 2 games, especially for online-only play, depends on the game studio's continued support that may evaporate at any time. Web 3 aligns creators and consumers' incentives by spreading around ownership's rights in digital assets to those who create content, studios and other active community members, and those who consume it, gamers. Web 3 gives those ownership rights permanence, economic utility, and censorship resistance. Permanence is achieved by deploying as much protocol and governance logic on-chain. In other words, NFTs confirm the ownership of a digital asset, and immutable smart contracts control protocol logic that will continue running for as long as the underlying blockchain network keeps running. Economic utility is achieved through interoperability of digital assets, which can be seamlessly imported from one ecosystem to another, either directly or by the transfer of relative value through on-chain trading and underlying digital assets. Censorship resistance is achieved when no single actor, whether founder, another community member, or an external agent, can exert excessive influence over the protocol such that they can unilaterally alter the protocol, shut it down, or cause it to fail simply by leaving the scene. Decentralization is a fundamental requirement for achieving censorship resistance. On to part 1, the importance of decentralization. While the primary purpose of any game is to provide entertainment value for which creators can and should be directly compensated, Web3 enables all participants to share in further value and control of the ecosystem. For Star Atlas, it has been and will be the case that all game assets are validated on-chain, and all critical game logic with any economic impact is conducted on-chain. A player's game assets are truly theirs, with ownership confirmed by NFTs, and the game would remain playable for as long as the underlying blockchain has active validators, effectively forever. And the governance layer in Star Atlas is built to last effectively forever as well, becoming what over time may less resemble mere gameplay and an expansive digital society. The key to achieving that long-term vision of a self-sustaining digital society depends on achieving censorship resistance through decentralization over time. Star Atlas needs to be governed by a fully decentralized and well-designed DAO. DAOs today. Lately, DAOs have been spinning up and at a ludicrous speed. Every Web3 project is intent on forming a DAO, often with little regard to building a properly functioning and sustainable governance structure. The media has started covering, in a bewildered tone, DAOs that have formed for myriads of purposes, such as raising funds to purchase a rare vintage art book, without acquiring necessary legal rights to develop the book into a derivative work as intended, and to purchase a copy of the United States Constitution and getting outbid at the auction. Meanwhile, legal experts have come up with new suggestions for DAO structures seemingly every few months. It's a chaotic space. But one thing is clear. While DAOs may serve a lot of different functions and take a lot of different forms, they share a common thread of enabling trustless collective decision-making. A true innovation in governance. Features unique to DAOs include low barriers to citizenship, because all that is required is to control the governance token. Unprecedented alignment of incentives among the users and controllers of a protocol. Unprecedented transparency. All votes are visible on an immutable blockchain. 24/7 governance mechanisms, often with immediate execution. Nearly frictionless decision-making across borders and around the globe. Elimination of intermediaries from the decision-making process. And composability. Governance rights are composable and can have additional utility layered on. These features underscore the importance of DAOs in the evolution of human coordination systems, which over the millennia have included theocracies, monarchies, democracies, and various types of business associations, among many others. In many respects, DAOs improve on what has come before and open the door to completely new community frameworks that require Web3 technology to function, meaning they cannot be mapped onto a traditional business association. Continuing part 1, the importance of decentralization. A lot has been written on DAOs already, including the Star Atlas economic papers. On page 10, part 1, the importance of decentralization, there are several references to other articles and documents referring to DAOs and the construction of DAOs, defining decentralization for law, etc. These are all references that can be looked at and gone over. Next, challenges faced by DAOs. Granted, DAOs are not a panacea for all human coordination problems. Even in their short history, DAOs have faced numerous challenges, including decentralizing too quickly without a plan to achieve product market fit, causing a project to lose momentum and focus on potentially fail. Too many cooks spoil the broth, at least early on in the project's life cycle. Making ill-informed or even illegal decisions based on popular votes without regard for broader consequences, without following sensible procedures to protect due process and without seeking input from advisors or specialists. Inconsistent decision making, sometimes with a DAO reversing course literally overnight. Although all sorts of governance and other governing bodies make decisions that depart from their prior practices, doing so within a single day is a pivot uniquely made possible by DAOs, calling into question the reliability of a DAO's decisions or commitments. Susceptibility to exploits if a vulnerability exists in the DAO's governance code. Often, DAOs are spun up without adherence to fundamental cybersecurity procedures. No surprise, then, that most exploits in the Web3 space took advantage of unaudited smart contracts. Exploits also can occur through centralized services used by the DAO or their project teams. And these also can lead to low participation rates among voters due to the free rider problem, with less than 10% of the electorate showing up even for important votes at most DAOs. A review of Snapshot, one of the most commonly used voting platforms used by popular Ethereum-based DAOs, underscores the low voter turnouts in most DAO decisions. Low voter turnout lead to increased concentration of powers in fewer, highly active DAO members, which can counteract the goals of decentralization. Reliance on centralized technologies, particularly on blockchains, with a relatively short development history, like Solana. Essentially, all DAOs rely to some extent on technologies that are not fully censorship resistant, and most rely on Web 2 services such as Discord or Discourse to facilitate community governance and discussions. Lack of regulatory and tax clarity around the rights and obligations of DAO members and the DAO itself, which is an impediment to broader adoption by new entrants to the Web3 ecosystem. A startup that does not depend on unique Web3 utility is likely better served by forming a traditional business association and not a DAO. Lack of precedence for a sustainably decentralized and functional and post-product launch gaming DAO. While there are numerous gaming DAOs, none have achieved both a complete product launch, especially a complex AAA quality game that takes years to develop, and full and sustainable decentralization. Given this nascent nature of the Web3 space, DAO governance trends are likely to evolve quickly. The list of what has gone wrong with various DAOs will grow larger, but so too will the success stories. As global communities like the one we have here at Star Atlas grow stronger, solve problems together, and build complex and durable digital societies. Part 2, Star Atlas today and tomorrow. In part 2, we describe our thoughts on an effective governance framework in general, the state of Star Atlas today, and the goals for Star Atlas tomorrow. An effective governance framework. Let's start with a simple concept. How effective organizations make and carry out decisions. We think an effective governance framework can be distilled into 3 levels at which decisions must be made: vision, strategy, and execution. Vision requires ideating at the highest level. Those providing vision think about where the organization should go and, in general terms, how to get there. Requires deep, principled thinking and careful decision making that always is consistent with the organization's core values. Strategy requires coming up with a workable approach to carry out the vision. Strategy focuses on aligning vision and execution level decisions. Execution requires implementing the strategy in a practical, boots on the ground manner. Granular, local knowledge is critical to executing on a strategy. Every effective organization follows this basic structure. In companies, vision is set forth by a board of directors, major shareholders, and upper management, in accordance to the company's larger purpose as set forth in the company's organization documents and mission statement. Strategy is developed by middle management and execution is carried out by lower ranked team members. In governments, vision is set by the most senior officials in accordance with a constitution or other central body of law. Strategy is developed by mid ranking officials, and execution is left to public servants with local knowledge. Next, Star Atlas, the state of decentralization today. In 2020, ATMTA Inc., a game development studio based out of the United States, began creating Star Atlas. ATMTA is a company in traditional mold. It is registered as a Delaware corporation and, as of this writing, retains the service of over 200 members, i.e., employees, contractors, and vendors, who bring expertise in myriad fields that include game development, blockchain engineering, creative writing, 3D and 2D art and design, marketing, economic analysis, finance, human resources, legal services, and others. Throughout 2022 and 2021, the ATMTA team built many of the experiences that define Star Atlas, such as ship NFTs, the first playable experience, such as ship commission on remote expedition, called Score. Those products were ideated by ATMTA's management, vision, strategized by ATMTA's project managers, the strategy, and implemented by ATMTA's artists, coders, writers, and more, the execution. In other words, ATMTA drove the early development of Star Atlas as the ecosystem's initial contributor. After all, decentralization and efficiency are natural trade-offs, and efficiency reigns supreme early in a project's lifecycle. And in fact, complete decentralization on day one is impossible to sustain. The story today, however, is quite different. ATMTA is not alone in building Star Atlas, far from it. The Star Atlas community has displayed immense activity and creativity in deploying various aspects of the ecosystem, all completely independent of ATMTA. Some examples include the club's Pit Stop, a one-stop shop resupply and claiming tool that interacts directly with Score's on-chain programs, built by the Club Guild. Red Spatula's Star Atlas ship pricing tool, a tool aggregating data on Star Atlas ships built by Red Spatula. Radanaut's Tufa Attack, an arcade-style shooting game set in the Star Atlas metaverse, developed by active community members Radadoom and Sprite Von Pixel. Coexist's Star Atlas Unreal Engine game, an immersive tutorial and other game experiences in Unreal Engine 5 under development by the Coexist Guild. StarTech Hub, a fleet resupply, news, and media hub. DAO recruitment and job search tool built by Araz developer. The Hologram, news network, a news site dedicated to Star Atlas related news developed by the independent entity, the Hologram News Network. Galactic Dash, a dashboard with metrics focusing on Star Atlas ships, politics, and economics by Kenemo. Atlas Theory, video content creation dedicated to Star Atlas created by a community member. The Bounty Bar Cocktail NFTs, Star Atlas themed drink NFTs created by the Bounty Bar, a group of community developers. Fleet Pass, a fleet manager tool created by the Deep Profits Guild. Star Atlas Tools, a browser extension that enhances the Star Atlas game experience by Blue Ice 81. Star Atlas Wiki, a community created and curated wiki for Star Atlas. Star Atlas Italia's fleet management tool, a fleet management tool built by the Italian guild Star Atlas Italia. Stardust Economy, an analytics tools for the Star Atlas metaverse built by community members. Star Atlas Guilds, a website aggregating various active Star Atlas guilds built by a community member. Star Atlas Guides, a set of guides for Star Atlas beginners built by a community member. That is just the tip of the iceberg. As the Star Atlas community continues to grow well into the hundreds of thousands from all around the globe, assists in no small part by the community's willingness to share and translate the Star Atlas vision into other languages. Moreover, the Star Atlas ecosystem is more decentralized and censorship resistant than may be apparent at first glance, because Star Atlas game systems are hard coded to use as much on chain game logic and permissionless tools as possible, meaning the parameters of game design are immutable and verified by a distributed network of blockchain validators. ATMTA is committed to developing as much game logic on chain as possible in a strategy that sets Star Atlas apart from most other blockchain games. Moreover, all Star Atlas assets are by their nature NFTs on the blockchain that the community can interact with directly without having to use any ATMTA provided front ends. To summarize the state of Star Atlas today, Star Atlas is, at its core, community driven, a fact that underpins all design and development decisions. Accordingly, ATMTA has placed a high priority on providing transparency to the community, engaging in frequent and substantive community discussions, incorporating community ideas, and encouraging community-led projects by independent developers. ATMTA is fully aware that ultimately it is no more than just one of many service providers for the Star Atlas DAO. Star Atlas, goals for tomorrow. The future of Star Atlas will continually progress towards being more decentralized, more sustainable, more structured around community-led initiatives, based on our understanding of an effective governance framework and what we have seen does and does not work in DAO space today. We believe Star Atlas must focus on emphasizing three overarching goals to support that decentralized vision. 1. Quality and safety. 2. Being community owned and community built. And 3. Sustainable governance. Now, for goal 1, quality and safety. When people think of Star Atlas, they should think of it as a high quality and safe experience. This means the whole package, an award-winning website that shapes the public's first impression of Star Atlas, high quality art for in-game assets, deeply immersive in-game visuals, exciting gameplay with a deep and varied economy, and maintaining a top-tier track record for cybersecurity practices. Quality leads to immersion. We believe that the technology now exists to facilitate a truly immersive metaverse experience, one that will inspire the dreams of our community and the public at large. We at ATMTA are committed to setting an extremely high bar for initial look and feel and quality experience for Star Atlas. By putting quality first and setting the bar with the full efforts of ATMTA's team of 200 builders and contributors, we hope to drive community-led efforts to match or exceed those internal expectations. Safety first. A decentralized community must have a solid reputation of cybersecurity practices, particularly given the history of breaches in Web3. Failure to pay sufficient attention to security, particularly on a repeated basis, can lead to significant harm to the community. ATMTA is committed to ensuring that all critical smart contracts affecting economic activity and user assets must be audited by reputable auditors such as Kodolsky Security and others. Code will be tested before development. Automata also will retain, for the benefit of the Star Atlas DAO, control of emergency powers to prevent or mitigate dangerous situations. With those powers phasing out as Star Atlas DAO matures, the smart contracts prove reliable over time. It will retain, for the benefit of the Star Atlas DAO, control of emergency powers to prevent or mitigate dangerous situations, with those powers phasing out as the Star Atlas DAO matures and the smart contracts prove reliable over time. While Automata and the Star Atlas DAO cannot make any safety guarantees, there always are risks inherent to irreversible transactions in Web3. Risk should be mitigated as much as possible. Strong quality and safety expectations are a necessary foundation for sustainable community growth. Goal 2, community owned and community built. At Star Atlas, the community comes first. Our community is empowered by having true ownership of Star Atlas assets, a high degree of transparency and visibility into all aspects of decentralized development, and access to tools necessary to facilitate community-led development. True community ownership. One of the major design decisions underlying all of Star Atlas is the choice to ensure game assets are validated as NFTs, make as much game logic live on chain as possible, and deploy government smart contracts and other code to be as fully decentralized and autonomous as possible. While many blockchain games are solving for Web3 by having most game logic and activities take place on centralized servers and only occasionally exporting NFTs and other assets to the blockchain, Star Atlas has a different goal in mind: to achieve maximum community ownership and therefore censorship resistance. Star Atlas will be a game and metaverse experience that will last for as long as the underlying blockchain network keeps validating transactions, effectively to the end of time. And all assets will be owned by the players. Our community is unparalleled in its devotion to being an active part of the ecosystem, and Automata is honored to play a role in facilitating that activity by providing deep and frequent insight into the development process. Automata has been publishing weekly roadmaps, updates, hosting regular town halls, answering the community questions in Discord, publishing reports like the recent State of the Economy report, and hosting larger community events like the Council of Peace Assembly event in June 2022. Automata prides itself on its long-standing commitment to transparency and intends to maintain a high level of engagement going forward as Star Atlas development increasingly is led by the other members of the community. Now, community-led development. We look forward to the moment when community-led development exceeds Automata's own efforts. It is an exciting and welcome prospect. Once initial look and feel and quality expectations are established, the Star Atlas ecosystem will open up further and support increased development of assets and experiences by community members and guilds. Automata is building tools and software development kits to facilitate such development. Expect to hear more on that front soon. Goal 3, sustainable governance. The governance of Star Atlas is intertwined with the broader lore of the game and metaverse. As citizens jockey for control of the galaxy, both through military might, expressed through their fleets, and political maneuvering, expressed through votes at the Star Atlas DAO and lower level DAOs. Thoughtful governance structures. Given the lessons learned from observing others throughout the ecosystem, we believe the Star Atlas DAO will benefit from having multiple pronged governance structure that operates on both a code level via the on-chain governance by Polis token holders, as well as a social layer via the constitutional and council-guided system, all described in greater detail in Part 3. When it comes to on-chain voting, vote weight also is proportional to a citizen's long-term commitment to the Star Atlas ecosystem, and participation in the Star Atlas DAO will be intertwined with a lore-based game of political intrigue and maneuvering. We believe these and other features will address low voter turnout and high voter fatigue experienced by other DAO. Part 3, a sustainable governance framework. Complete decentralization requires careful progression. It cannot exist, at least not sustainably, on a day one, but once achieved, it lends considerable strength and stability to a digital society. Through that lens, we are focused on Star Atlas consistently taking steps to become increasingly decentralized while adhering to a sustainable and effective governance framework. The critical components of that framework, described in this Part 3, include the Star Atlas DAO, the Star Atlas Constitution, the Star Atlas Council, the Polis Improvement Proposal Process, the Star Atlas Foundation, and numerous third-party service providers, such as but not exclusive to ATMTA. The Star Atlas DAO and its treasury. The Star Atlas DAO makes decisions with the broadest impact on the Star Atlas ecosystem. Its decisions reflect all the community interests, shape the fundamental direction of the ecosystem, and should be consistent with solid first principles of the Star Atlas metaverse. See the decision below on the Star Atlas Constitution. The Star Atlas DAO is the top-level DAO over any sub-DAOs, reflecting regional, factional, and local or guilds interests. The Star Atlas DAO is one and the same with the Star Atlas community. The community is comprised in the broadest sense of the ecosystem's entire population, including those who play Star Atlas games, participate in community decisions, run businesses in the Star Atlas metaverse, buy and sell Star Atlas digital assets, or merely visit or observe a Star Atlas metaverse experience. All community members are encouraged to participate fully in the DAO's experience and public decisions. Only those who lock Polis tokens in the DAO located at governance.staratlas.com, however, have the power to vote on decisions that can shape the destiny of the DAO. To encourage activity participation by those with the longest term commitment to the DAO, members of the DAO have Polis voting power, PVP, commensurate with the duration and amount of their locked Polis. The Star Atlas DAO exercises control over several key functions. First, the DAO treasury and its development and management. Monetary policy in the Star Atlas metaverse, including taxation of in-game activities and Atlas and Polis tokenomics and emissions, which are contained in reward pools controlled by the DAO. Also, broad decisions shaping Star Atlas, such as decisions to retain developer services or brand decisions, i.e. to approve a partnership between the DAO and a third party. The Star Atlas DAO and its treasury continues. The DAO treasury is managed by the DAO through on-chain governance mechanisms. Any funds that the DAO decides to send off-chain may be deployed by entities such as the Star Atlas Foundation, but only after receiving on-chain approval by the DAO and subject to the direction of the DAO. The DAO treasury is funded by proceeds from what amounts to taxation on transactions in the ecosystem, consistent with the parameters set forth in the Star Atlas economic paper. To date, the DAO has collected over 250 million Atlas from the sale of resources used in Score. Prior to the launch of the DAO's on-chain governance system, ATMTA safeguarded those assets and did not and will not spend them on any ATMTA-only purpose. Those funds may only be spent by the DAO through on-chain governance. The DAO also has the power in its sole discretion to determine monetary policy and tax rates in the Star Atlas ecosystem, how taxation revenue is spent, and how the emission curves and other tokenomic design of Atlas and Polis may be changed, if at all. Finally, the DAO makes broad decisions for the Star Atlas metaverse and brand. For example, the DAO may vote to encourage a developer to build a new gaming experience for Star Atlas or to associate the Star Atlas DAO's brand with a potential partner. The Star Atlas Constitution. A properly functioning DAO should make decisions that are consistent with a long-term vision. Although on-chain code provides immutable consistency on a programmatic basis, the long-term viability of Star Atlas community that takes action and makes decisions that necessarily involve off-chain interactions depend on the consistency and adaptability offered by a broader and substantive supreme law, a constitutional document. The Star Atlas Constitution is currently being drafted with inputs from the community and generally contains the following sections. Core principles, describing the most enduring values and fundamental rights of Star Atlas community. Supremacy and jurisdiction, defining over what the DAO exercises ultimate authority and the DAO's authority with respect to sub-DAOs. Decision-making framework, codifying the DAO's proposal-making process. Implementation framework, explaining how decisions made by the DAO shall be executed, particularly where a decision cannot be made purely through on-chain commands. Dispute resolution framework, setting forth a process to resolve disputes among Star Atlas community members shall be resolved. Amendment framework, describing the process required to amend the Constitution. The Constitution must be both specific enough to provide clear direction and general enough to permit adaptation over time. It will become the supreme law of the Star Atlas metaverse and must be ratified via on-chain governance. The Star Atlas Council. The decision of the Star Atlas DAO shall be guided but not controlled by the Council of elected representatives. One of the main problems faced by many DAOs today is that pure direct democracy in which every decision is debated and weighed by every member of the community leads to inconsistent outcomes, poorly thought through proposals, sometimes issuing illegal or impossible instructions, and noise that makes it difficult for projects to move forward. We will believe that the quality of decision making by a large community is improved by having a council shepherd the proposal ideation and drafting process such that proposals will receive a full vetting before formally being submitted for voting. The council will provide input on draft proposals with an eye for potential legal pitfalls and malicious or unintended effects. Some benefits of Star Atlas Council's influence on the proposal process include: a single body of representatives can more easily receive confidential information that could benefit the DAO, if keeping such information confidential clearly is in the best interest of the DAO. The council could more easily receive the input of experienced specialists where appropriate. A consistent set of representatives vetting proposals would add consistency to all proposals and ensure all proposals are aligned with the Star Atlas Constitution. Star Atlas members will be elected and replaced by the Star Atlas DAO via on-chain governance. The number of council members and other details regarding the Star Atlas Council, such as the duration of their term, will be determined with input from the community. We encourage highly active and devoted members of the community to run for seats on the Star Atlas Council. The proposals and voting process. Polis improvement proposals, also known as PIPs, form the backbone of governance in the Star Atlas DAO. All PIPs must follow a designated process that will be ratified by the DAO. But on a general level, every PIP will contain a concise rationale and specification for a feature or change, must reflect input from the community through engaged discussion, and must undergo levels of review by the community, the Star Atlas Council, the full DAO, and the Star Atlas Foundation. If the DAO votes to approve a PIP, the proposal will be implemented by the DAO Foundation or others specified in the PIP. A PIP broadly will go through 8 steps or more, as some steps may be iterative based on feedback. Ideation. Any member of the Star Atlas community, even non-voter, can propose and lead discussion on an idea for a PIP, with input received from the community. A PIP may concern any potential chain within jurisdiction of the Star Atlas DAO, such as a decision to deploy some portion of the DAO's treasury for an ecosystem development grant. Number 2, drafting. The author's drafts the proposal in accordance with a format that has been pre-approved by the Star Atlas DAO. PIPs shall provide concise technical specification and rationale for a change to the ecosystem. The PIP author is responsible for building consensus in the community, documenting dissenting opinions, and shepherding the PIP through the entire process. PIPs may be a signaling memo to approve off-chain instruction written in the text of the PIP, or they may include on-chain Solana instructions to be executed after approval by the electorate. Number 3, the review. The Star Atlas Council leads the review process. As described above, the Council is an elected body of representatives of the community charged with ensuring that PIPs are consistent with the Constitution, which is a governing document setting forth first principles important to the Star Atlas community. If appropriate, the Council may provide formal feedback on the draft proposal to ensure the author and the community have considered the draft's broader implications, including legal consideration, tax considerations, potential conflicts of interest, and other issues. The Council may reject a draft if it determines that a draft or author are not compatible of advancement to the next stage. Number 4, the revision. The author revises the draft proposal based on feedback from the Council and the community. Review and revisions are an iterative process. Some drafts may not be capable of advancing to the next stage of initial approval. Number 5, the provisional approval. The Council formally determines that the proposal is ready for submission to the electorate. The proposal is designated as a live PIP and given an identification number. Number 6, advancement. The PIP is advanced to on-chain voting via activation by a governor with a requisite amount of PVP. PIPs undergo an activation delay of 48 hours, after which they can be voted on by those with a non-zero amount of PVP. Number 7, voting. The full DAO votes on the PIP. The PIP is approved only if both quorum and threshold PVP minimums, as assigned by the DAO, are met. Voting lasts for 2 weeks. Number 8, execution. 48 hours after a successful vote, the Star Atlas Foundation, an independent body charged with following the will of the DAO, executes an approved PIP and, if necessary, implements the PIPs directly as a legal entity. The Foundation does not have unilateral authority over the DAO, the on-chain governance mechanism, or the treasury. That said, if a PIP is not compatible of safe or proper implementation, the Foundation may exercise discretion not to execute the PIP. If the PIP proposes a substantial risk to the ecosystem, is missing or contains inaccurate information, such as critical information about costs, if it conflicts with other PIPs, conflicts with the Constitution, would require illegal actions by the Foundation directors, is reasonably suspected of containing fraudulent or misleading information, or other reasons. If the Foundation exercises such discretion, this Foundation must provide a clear explanation of its reasoning, at which point the PIP may, if possible, undergo resubmission process. The specific rules governing the proposal, drafting, and passage process will be defined through discussions with the community and will be ratified by the Star Atlas DAO. Among other things, the rules will address situations in which conflicting PIPs are proposed, which happen when a PIP cannot be implemented, the voting threshold required for a successful vote, and other potential issues. Additionally, at launch, ATMTA holds an emergency override authority over the governance mechanism, to be used only in an emergency to protect the DAO and the community, such as following the discovery of an exploit or vulnerability. Once the DAO has achieved a sufficient level of maturity, sustainability, and decentralization, the emergency override authority will shift completely to the DAO. The Star Atlas Foundation. The Star Atlas Foundation is a Cayman Islands foundation limited by guarantee and without share capital, with the sole purpose of carrying out the will of the Star Atlas DAO. It is an independent entity run by a majority of independent and experienced directors, people who have substantial Web3 and directorship experience and who have no business, financial, or social ties to ATMTA or any of its personnel. Although one person from ATMTA will sit on the foundation initially, that person has a minority voice and will be present primarily to ensure the foundation acts with full information about the Star Atlas ecosystem. The Star Atlas Foundation is disaffiliated with ATMTA and will independently implement the decision of the Star Atlas DAO. To be clear, the Star Atlas Foundation is neither the Star Atlas DAO nor the Star Atlas Council. The Foundation merely serves as an agent of the DAO to fulfill the limited purpose of carrying out certain defined activities. It cannot make independent decisions of the DAO. It cannot unilaterally access the DAO's treasury, and its governing documents provide that the DAO, via on-chain governance, can remove or replace the foundation's directors. Moreover, the foundation is dependent on funding from the DAO's treasury that must be approved through the PIP process. The foundation merely carries out the DAO's orders, particularly where a legal entity is required, i.e., to sign contracts for the DAO, which cannot itself sign contracts as it is a non-jurisdictional entity. The Star Atlas Foundation also plays a vital role in on-chain governance. It holds the keys to the multi-sig executive function necessary to implement a successful on-chain vote. This function does not let the foundation control the entire governance mechanism. In other words, it cannot unilaterally create a proposal or create an instruction to access the DAO's treasury. The executive function merely offers a financial check on the governance process to ensure that the DAO's decision can safely and legally be implemented. The role of ATMTA and other developers. As explained above, ATMTA is merely one service provider in the broader Star Atlas ecosystem. While it has significant role in the development today as the initial contributor to Star Atlas, even now the ecosystem is vibrant with an increasing level of development provided by other individuals and guilds. Cognitive of its role as one of many Star Atlas developers, ATMTA is creating a set of tools and software development kits to accelerate decentralized development of Star Atlas. The DAO ultimately makes its own decision about which developers it wants to associate and partner with in growing out all the experiences of Star Atlas. Clear. Once the DAO's governance framework is fully up and running, the DAO would even be able to fire Automata should its services no longer be desired by the community. Because the Star Atlas metaverse is completely community driven and community owned, and no single contributor, even the initial contributor, shall have any overriding influence over the ecosystem. With time, active community members' influence over the Star Atlas community will exceed Automata's. A coalition of unrelated parties would need to come together to achieve a PvP majority. And in the end, all the front end user experiences underlying blockchain code, lore, art, and more, all of what defines Star Atlas, can and will be made by a diverse set of contributors. In conclusion, today, Star Atlas is a concept. It is a galaxy spanning story, an immersive metaverse with an increasing complex economy, and a space MMO characterized by elements of grand strategy and resource management, as well as political intrigue and maneuvering. And it has at its core an incredible community, hundreds of thousands strong from all around the globe. From the outset, our goal has been to ensure the community truly owns and runs the Star Atlas metaverse. Because the Star Atlas of tomorrow will be a sustained and exciting digital society for many years to come. We hope you digest the ideas in this paper, discuss them with us, and help us iterate and improve on them as we together travel the path to achieve a sustainable and effective governance framework for the Star Atlas DAO. And they lived happily ever after. The end. I hope that was enjoyable. I hope you feel relaxed. And I hope your brain has not exploded. Thank you for listening to the Sustainable Governance Framework of the Star Atlas DAO. Good morning, Metaverse.